I thought this was an anti-competitive measure. We talked about it a little bit because United, Delta, and American, the American airlines, have been long upset with Emirates, Etihad, and Qatar Airlines because they get massive government subsidies. But, you know, so does British Airways, so does Air France. I mean, there's a long-standing tradition of airlines being subsidized by the government of the country they belong to. We don't do it here in the U.S. There's no American subsidized airline. So they feel like it's an unfair competitive advantage. And last week, the U.S. and the U.K. banned big electronic devices, basically anything but a cell phone, from flights from 10 countries originating in the Middle East on these airlines only. And I thought, well, it's an anti-competitive measure because you can fly United, American, and Delta and still keep your laptop and your Kindle and your iPad. But maybe not, because here is the story from the Observer. Laptop ban on planes came after plot to put explosives in an iPad. So maybe the Department of Homeland Security and the UK security forces were responding to that. It bans tablets, laptops, game consoles, Kindles to inbound flights from Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Tunisia, and Turkey. In the case of England, this does apply to British Airways, EasyJet, Jet2, Monarch, Thomas Cook, and Thomson, as well as the 8 foreign carriers. The U.S. is banning flights from Jordan, Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Qatar, Kuwait, and the UAE. So, security sources say the bans were not the result of single incidents, specific incidents, but a combination of factors, including the discovery of this plot. Remember, you used to have to turn on electronics? Yeah. Then they stopped doing that, right?
Yeah, they used to.
That would be one way to handle this. I don't think you could have a bomb in an iPad and have it be a working iPad.
Maybe in a laptop. I mean, I remember when they would do that, I was like, couldn't they just kind of come up with something where the screen lights up and
you want to give the government the benefit of the doubt in saying that this is about safety, but when you see, at least on the U.S.'s part, that it only applies to airlines that aren't owned by U.S. companies, that seems discriminatory, to be quite honest. And the fact that it is only Muslim-majority nations, and the U.S. and the U.K. seem to have coordinated, but they didn't choose the same countries, which is also very interesting. So there's a lot of just like, what here? And if that's your genuine concern, you can still take all these devices on a flight. You just have to pack them in your luggage, and then you have to check the luggage. So what's in question here is you can't actually use these devices in the cabin during a flight. Right. But you can use them if they come from the airline. So this doesn't apply to the flight crew. This doesn't apply to the cabin crew.
Well, that's reasonable, because presumably the stuff provided by the airline is secure.
Well, but there's also lots of different electronics you could put explosives in. So it's like,
there's lots of
what's
things you
exactly, what is exactly happening here? How much safer are we really that this is happening than people would just fly Delta? Like, then you're like, okay, I'm not going to fly Delta now. Now I don't know where am I really going to be that safe? It seems like there's probably a lot more to this than...
Well, yeah, bombs are bombs, whether they're in checked
but it's much worse if it's much worse if it's in the cabin. It could blow a hole in the cabin. Passengers can get sucked out.
But it's
you
still
can't
in the air that's
say where
blowing
the
up.
bomb is going to be in checked luggage.
Yeah.
It could be near the skin of the plane, but it could also be in the middle, so it may not be as effective.
Man,
there are a lot of questions about this, but since I had suggested that this was actually a kind of a crypto, anti-competitive move, I have to point out there is a security issue, and that may be what stimulated.
It seems there's one. It would just be nice to feel like it was more well thought out as to what the security issue was and what the solution is.
Well, there's a lot of security theater, right? Bruce Schneier has always called the TSA, and this is not the TSA, this is DHS, but it's often called TSA security theater because when you take off your shoes because the guy tried to light his shoes on fire, but I don't know. And the thing that gets me is if I ever fly business class, almost always when I fly business class, I'm sent to the TSA pre. They have you don't have to be a member of TSA pre to get selected for it. And that's the one where you don't have to take off your shoes and you don't have to take out your laptop and you just walk through a metal detector. There's much lighter security. And it always strikes me, But the hijackers in 9/11 all were flying first class because they want to be the front of the cabin. Flying first class doesn't make you a better person.
No, it just means that you paid for that. That's the
So
only
it makes me
difference.
wonder, well, what's the whole thing about TSA pre if they're going to let you through because you bought an expensive ticket?
Yeah.
I don't. It's theater. It's security.
If I
theater.
had to fly from Dubai to San Francisco looking
Without a
at my
laptop.
fingernails.
Without a, I mean, oh my
Talk
God.
about air rage. That's a dangerous
Oh my
proposition.
God. I don't like that idea.
They have an entire plane full of people climbing the walls. And I think a lot of folks would be perfectly happy watching the movies and so forth. I need to read and do work on a plane. Like, I would be so bummed.
Well, and that's
if they're
why
like,
I thought it was
16-hour flight, sir.
That's why I thought it was really about some sort of trade because the most valuable customers are the
business
ones
traveler,
the business travelers
Yeah,
in first and business class who are working on the plane. If you take away their laptops, they're gonna go from Etihad to Delta or American or United where they can carry their laptop.
good point.
Yeah.
It felt to me like a little bit of a mini trade war.